How's it going, you lot, and welcome back to another video with me, your authentic Cockney. Now, off the back of the last couple of gaming videos I've done, where I've been showing you my gaming collections, a few people have asked, what other gaming collections do I own? And one of them being this here, which is the Xbox 360. Now, I've got quite a few other gaming collections which I'm going to show you soon, but today I'm going to be doing nothing but Xbox, mate. Xbox 360. Purely this. What I'm going to do is take you through the gaming collection, and then we'll have a look at the console and the controller at the end. Now, this competed alongside the PS3 and the Wii. And I will say, in comparison to the Wii, this was a more of an adult console, so I definitely thought, well, I need to own one of these, because a lot of the games you couldn't get on the Wii that you could get on the Xbox. Some of them did cross over. I do believe you could get the Call of Duties on the Wii, but the graphics weren't as good and it weren't as immersive as on the Xbox 360. Some games you couldn't get on the Wii though, so if you wanted to play, for example, I do believe Resident Evil 5 weren't on the Wii, so therefore if you wanted to play it, you needed to own a 360 or PS3. But there were loads of banging titles on here, and quite a lot of them in this collection I'm going to show you, starting over here. Now, if you ain't played these, right, the Elder Scrolls games, they get better every time with the graphics, but this one is a cheeky little banger, mate. This is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, proper RPG, and fully customizable character, really. So you start off the game and you can do anything in these games, the Elder Scrolls games. The sort of story, you've got a main quest, but the side quests and the sort of the way the main quest progresses sort of depends on your decisions. And it's quite a lot of the side quests are quite in-depth and detailed, and they can take you away from the main quest sometimes. But what I liked about Oblivion, in comparison to Skyrim, which we'll get onto in just a bit, is that the graphics, like I said, they sort of evolved every time, you know what I mean, with these Elder Scrolls RPGs. And the graphics on here weren't as good, obviously, as Skyrim, the next one in the series, but it sort of added a little bit more to your imagination. It was a little bit more charming when the graphics weren't as good in the games. You had to think about it a little bit more, so I thought sometimes it was a bit more immersive, you know what I mean. If you look at the gaming footage, you could be fighting like knights, you could be fighting wizards, you could cast magic spells, you could be a warrior, you could have all sorts of axes and swords and shields and armour. Dress your character up, and you could upgrade, obviously, your character with all the perks, pickpocketing, stuff like that, all the little perks you can get. But this was a banging little game, mate. Just a little bit of warning, if you do start playing it, you might get hooked and stuck in it, because it goes on for ages. But there you go, that's the inside of it, and that's a nice instruction booklet there, nice colour, sort of looks like a proper scroll or parchment, doesn't it, you know what I mean, a design of that. So that's Oblivion, great RPG, sort of set the tone for a lot of RPGs, that. And next up here, surprising little game actually. Back in the day, these were proper popular, these games, and I played this an awful lot when I had it. This is Guitar Hero World Tour. If you ain't played this, you probably have. You're in the grasp what it's about, sort of thing. You know what I'm talking about when I talk about Guitar Hero. I think World Tour is probably the most popular one, but what it is basically you have a guitar. You'll have like this here, I think you can play it with a controller, but to get properly stuck in, you would have your guitar here, and you'll actually have a little flick thing on where the strings would be in a real guitar. And then when you play the chords on the guitar, that would give you different notes. And what would happen is these would come here and you'll have to strike the chords as they come into these bottom of the circles. It's a little bit like you've probably seen them dance games, innit? Them dance machines in the amusement arcades, or that Just Dance I think it's called. I never had one of those, but you'd have to hit the target of the arrow or the colour as it comes down the screen to be able to continue playing the song of your choice. And if you keep missing, it ends up game over and you don't get to the end of the song. But there's quite a few songs, popular songs on there. For example, you've got the Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, you've got Michael Jackson's Beat It, you've got Sweet Home Alabama on there. Loads of proper popular songs, you know what I mean? And like I said, back in the day, these were banging little games, mate. These had loads of sequels, and I think World Tour was like the most popular one, but I got a little bit surprisingly addicted to this game. When I got it, I was like, mate, I can't get off of this. It's something a bit different at the time, but I sort of feel like it's had its day a little bit, and the sort of novelty worn off. But if you ain't played that, give that a little go. It might be good for a little bit of nostalgia, you know what I mean? And if you've got some mates around your house or your families who proper little laugh, you can also get a drum kit and stuff as well, so you can literally form the entire band, not just doing the guitar, with also singing. So there's a lot to do in that game, so check that out. Next up here, now I do admit this ain't a game I've played that much, to be honest. Tomb Raider. This is sort of like the comeback of the Tomb Raider for these sort of modern consoles. You remember obviously Tomb Raider from the 90s when it was all like square graphics and all that, and pretty basic gameplay, but this is where they proper upgraded it with the visuals, but also the gameplay with being Lara Croft as we know, and going through the jungle, the tombs, solving puzzles, having scraps of animals and other enemies, guys and soldiers and whoever else you come across. But I say the visuals in here were a lot better. It's come out in about 2013, I do think, I remember. And this was a little bit like, sort of, quite similar to Uncharted, the sort of gameplay, probably not as epic with the action scene as Uncharted, but a lot of climbing, swinging, scaling buildings and cliff edges and things like that, you know what I mean? And the sort of shootouts and things like that with the enemies. And it was more based on sort of Lara Croft's origins, where she was basically a survivor at the start of the game. I was a bit sort of more vulnerable and that, and then she became a hero throughout as you sort of train her up, upgrade her and all that. But you can see some gaming footage there, just epic scenes like a gun there, getting attacked by a wolf here. And basically what I've just said there, look, a survivor is born. But yeah, great little game, and a couple of sequels. I think the next one was called Rise of the Tomb Raider, the one after that was called The Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I think there's another one just coming out now. It's the great little games to sort of play, because when you've got adventure games like that, it's just unlimited scenarios that Lara Croft could be stuck in, you know what I mean? Unlimited tombs and mythical objects and things like that she could be after. So have little butchers of that if you fancy a bit of Tomb Raider. Now here, a game I ain't played much of either, actually, to be honest, Gears of War. Do you know what? I finished this game, but I played it once through, but I didn't play it again, even though it's a good game. And I can't really remember a lot about it. I do remember there's a lot of shooting, a lot of taking cover, a lot of warfare with the aliens that you're having, you're fighting. But I remember it was a lot of like taking cover. You got a team with you, loads of shooting. But this was when the Xbox 360 came out. This was pretty much one of the launch titles, and it done really well. And obviously it spanned loads of sequels coming out after it. But a decent little action game. And what I do like about these games on the Xbox is that the design of the disc here is not necessarily what you would get on the box or the instruction manual. So this sort of symbol here, this skull and crossbones here in that gear, is actually that. But you would think, quite possibly when designing it, they might just go simply bang with that image and then bang, whack it on there, you know what I mean? But these are loads of sequels, Gears of War, and they are good games. So have a little brushes at that, and maybe you can learn a bit more about it and what I told you, because like I said, it was quite a while ago. Played that. Now this here, I saw this, right, probably a little bit more of an obscure game. I see this, and it's like a spin-off. The Dead Island games are really popular, and this is a bit of a spin-off of Dead Island. This is Escape from Dead Island. I do believe the other ones were like first-person shooter sort of thing. This one ended up being a bit more of a cel-shaded, cartoony, if you can see there, cartoon vibe, and more first person. It was alright as a game, I didn't mind it. It was quite, I think it was on sale, it was a little bit cheap as chips, so I thought I'd pick that up. I had a little go on it, didn't play it an awful lot, but it was quite linear, to be honest. I prefer games that are a bit more open world, and you can do what you want, and there's sort of a main quest you can follow, which essentially would be linear. But with this, it was just sort of following a trail, fighting zombies, which is quite nice for a simple game. But if you're looking for something a bit more involved, you might be finishing this a bit too quickly. But good story, you got stealth in it, you got the exploration still in there a little, to an element, to an extent. You got the stealth and you got the straight on combat with the zombies, but the graphics and visuals were proper nice in this game. Like I said, it's like cartoony, cel shaded sort of graphics, you know what I mean? So, but you could duck and dive, hide from the zombies, then surprise them. If you can find that cheap, you might want to pick that up. Have a little butchers at that. It's Escape from Dead Island. Now, another game I didn't play an awful lot was this, but this was a main competitor to the Call of Duty series, which I'll get to in just a bit. This was the Battlefield series, and they're still going on today. These are decent shooters, decent first-person shooters, but they're quite similar to Call of Duty. I'd say the difference being this is slightly more open, and you would have to sort of do a little bit more planning with your missions and stuff, along with a team. Vehicles, there's more sort of jumping in and out of vehicles, as opposed to Call of Duty, which I think Call of Duty I prefer more. Funny me saying about linear gameplay, Call of Duty I think is a little bit more linear, but I sort of preferred it over Battlefield. I thought Call of Duty was maybe a little bit more immersive, in my opinion. But I will say with these Battlefield games, the destruction element is spot on, mate. You can, when you're shooting down walls or buildings, you can actually shoot holes in them. You can chip off bits of pillars and stuff with the way you shoot them, your bullets. And the destruction, the physics and the destruction element is bang on. So it's very realistic in that aspect. And like I said, they're still making these games today. And this was a main competitor for the Call of Duty Modern Warfare games on the 360. Let's just have a little look inside here. Same sort of design really. I do like this green. The green on the cases of the Xbox 360. There's a disc there. But if we look at the back here, it is great warfare in a game. Fighting on the land, the air and the sea. Epic destruction with levolution. Intense gameplay. It's a lot of gunfights, explosions and realistic destruction. So I mean, Battlefield games are fantastic, and everyone knows that. But we've all got our little individual preferences, haven't we, to certain games. I'm going to get on in a moment to my favourite in just a sec, which some of you might be surprised with this collection. Now let's have a look here, mate. This is a well nice little decent RPG. This is Dragon Age 2. And in this game, you can either select a rogue, a mage, I think it is, or a warrior. And just like sort of a lot of RPGs, each one of them's got their own strengths and weaknesses. So if you're a mage, obviously you're dealing with a lot of magic elements. Casting spells, a lot of magic when you're attacking enemies. When you're a warrior, you're straight up at the front line. Heavy armour, every weaponry, just going straight in with swords and axes and stuff like that. And then when you're playing a rogue, you're a bit more of a thieving, stealthy, undercover, with daggers and stuff when you're attacking people, you know what I mean, and fighting. But this was great open world gameplay. So you'd have you and your partner in the main campaign, and you'll be having epic battles with loads of enemies at the same time. You have that sort of great battle type combat play where you could attack all the enemies together with magic spells, or you could jump between them, do all sorts of moves and strategic fighting to take them all out, do you know what I mean? But it was a great little game. And also as well in this game, you had a main mission which would play out, but you could sort of alter it slightly by the decisions you made when you were chatting to certain characters. So a lot of the time you'd have like a decision sort of wheel come up, and you could select what you wanted to say, a bit like those sort of point and click games, I think you call them. You could select what you want to say, and it might alter what happens next. So that was quite an interesting, proper, nice RPG element to this game. Have a little check this out. I think this is a bit more an obscure game, Dragon Age, but do check them out. Like, I really liked this. There's a disc there for you, and there's your fella warrior about to get stuck in. I do like RPGs when they're done well. So have a little look at that if you ain't. Dragon Age 2. If you're into RPGs, that'll be quite tasty for you. Now, we're on to my favourites. This wasn't the first one I played. This was the second. I've got to say this. If you ain't played these games, and I'm going to say this, Far Cry 3 and 4 are the best in the series. These are absolutely brilliant. I was thoroughly underestimating these games when I picked them up. The first one I played was Far Cry 4, and I'm going to get onto that in a bit of detail in a minute. And I thoroughly underestimated these games when I played Far Cry 4 and then this. I was absolutely addicted to these games. I could not draw myself away from them. The open world shooter type of game that this is, it's so addictive because first of all, there isn't a lot of games that are open world shooters, especially that do it this well as in Far Cry. But what I loved about this game, what I was really addicted to, was taking over the forts, So a lot of areas would have forts that you had to obtain, you had to take them over, and then when you did, you opened up more of the map. And then to be able to do so, you couldn't just go into the fort, even though it was open world. You still had to devise some sort of strategy to be able to take out the enemies efficiently without getting killed yourself. And you'd have to tag. What I loved about it was tagging the enemies. So you'd use your binoculars to tag them, and you could keep an eye on them with the arrows above their heads of where they was going to be, and when they was going behind objects, you could still keep an eye on them. But I'll talk about that in the next. Just moving on to Far Cry 4, but here, Far Cry 3, this was set on a tropical island, and actually your geezer, the bloke you play, was going skydiving with his mates at the start of the game, and they end up on the wrong island, and there's some naughty boy called Vars, which is the villain here. He was probably the best villain. I don't know, maybe it's a bit opinionated. He is a great villain, but the best, if not one of the best villains in the game. And he was insane, this bloke. And at the end, obviously, you have a battle with him right at the end, but he was insane, this bloke, this Vars. And he was the main antagonist in the game. Even like it says here, if you can see that, insane people. And there's a picture of Vars there. There you go. Meet their deranged inhabitants. Another thing about these games, which I'll get into in just a sec, but I'll speak about Far Cry 4, but that's number 3. Now, a lot of people say number 3 is the best. What I liked about it, I'll tell you what I liked about it the most, is the upgrade from Far Cry 2. All the Far Cry games are absolutely banging. As a series, if you get them and you're going to play them, you can't go wrong. But this upgraded proper from Far Cry 2. It didn't really use the same system, graphics, mechanics. It upgraded it properly, and this became the base for it all, Far Cry 3. So that was Far Cry 3. People think it's the best, but my favourite, I'm going to say this out of all of them, is number 4. Mate, what a game. He, on the front here, is a geezer called Pagan Min, and he is basically a dictator on the island of Kira, and you play a geezer called AJ, which is the main protagonist, and this bloke here is the main antagonist. And he's taken over as a bit of a dictator, so when you're walking around the open world, you can easily get a bump. When you're not doing any missions, you could just bump into the enemies that are governed by him, the soldiers, etc. What I loved about these games as well, just going to get on to, there's quite a few missions in these where you have to set fire to stuff. So I think in Far Cry 3 there's one of them, and in here on one particular mission you have to set fire with a flamethrower to fields of drugs and whatever they've got, to burn it all, weed, to burn it all in the game. And the effects of the fire, how it moves across the floor, how it looks, it's so realistic. What I loved about this even more than 3 is the explosions. So there was a point where I was in the game, I completed all the missions, and I'll just still go about in the open world with a grenade launcher and the little gyrocopter that you could get, and just fly about in the sky, dropping grenades on people, blowing up the trucks and that. And the explosions were super realistic, and the noise of the explosion, I remember that, and it was just so addictive. It kept just going around blowing things up like. But that's your main antagonist, Pagan Min, in the fictional land of Kirat, and you're playing the protagonist called AJ. But if you ain't played these, mate, these are absolutely banging games. Far Cry 4, like I said, was the first one I played, and it probably blew me away. Maybe if I played 3 first, it might be my favourite, but this is my secure favourite, possibly because I played it first. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree, saying they're the best games here, because they're probably going to slay this one. GTA 5, mate. And a lot of people are still waiting for GTA 6. I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did this come out in 2013? Let me know. I think it did, 2013. But to be completely honest, I've played a fair bit of this. I haven't got that stuck into it. The reason being is because I know it's so epic. This is a true story, because it's so epic. I didn't want to get playing it too much because I wouldn't be able to get out of it. I know what I'm like once I start playing a game that's so immersive. But I know, needless to say, and everyone else knows, needless to say, that these have set the tone for open world games. You couldn't really get open world action games where you can go around doing literally everything. These have set the tone for that GTA 5, the GTA games. And now a lot of games have used that as a base for their own open world games. A lot of them have, actually. If you're playing sort of action games in the city, a lot of them have used the GTA sort of engine or realism to be able to do what you want. But this is set in Los Santos, and that's basically a replica of LA, Los Angeles. It looks like Los Angeles pretty much is LA, but I think maybe they're just licensing or something like that, or they just fancy calling it something else. But needless to say, if you ain't played this, you should definitely give it a go. But most people watching this video have probably own it, or have definitely played it. But the physics in here are brilliant. I mean, like when you're driving down the road on a motorbike and you hit a car and your character goes flying across the map. It's great fun. There's a lot of fun to be had in these games, but like I said, it has set the tone. This is the one that all action open world games look at when they're getting inspiration. But guilty as charged, I should have played more of this, and I'm going to. I mean, Rockstar, the people that make it, I'll tell you what, they also did this here, and this here, which I'll get into in a minute. All of them epic. Tells you something about the type of people and their design, their type of way they manufacture and make games. Now this here, I didn't really play it that much, to be honest, but I bought it because, you know, back in 2012, the old Olympics were held here, London 2012. Just a standard Olympic game, really. But this was the official game of the London 2012 Olympics. And I think you could use the Kinect sensor, a bit like the thing with the Wii. You'll put it on top of the TV, and you can actually do the sport, whatever you was doing, running, sprinting, javelin, whatever, and you could sort of do it, you know, the motion of what you was meant to be doing. But just basically a Olympic game. Got a few events there. Looks like the hurdles, bit of bike racing here, bit of canoeing. Not sure what they refer to it as, the type of different races doing that. But there's some events there, javelin on there, look, swimming, bit of volleyball, but standard Olympic game for the official Olympics in London. Just all new events. Pretty decent little game, actually. Quite a bit of fun, especially with mates, you know what I mean? Quite a nice looking instruction manual there. Nice looking game, nice blue there. I remember the Olympics was on in London. It was absolutely buzzing, mate. Great atmosphere it was. Great Britain your time is now, or at least it was in 2012. If you do like games like that, I mean, obviously it's Olympics, so it's got a lot of variety. You know what I mean? So if you do like games with a lot of variety, sport and all that, have little butchers at that. Now, Rockstar, yet again, epic game here, just like GTA. This is LA Noir, and I tell you what, I love games like this. So this is obviously set in LA, and it's like 1920s LA with this sort of classic suits that people might have worn, and it's got that noir vibe to it with the music, and noir sort of black and white detective vibe to it, even though the game's in colour. That classic, I'm talking about, that black and white detective feel, and it really is a proper immersive game. They should have made, I'm not sure if there's a sequel or something similar to this. If there is, let me know if you've played this, but this is spot on, mate, as a game. I'll tell you why. It's open world like GTA. You can chase after people on foot, you can drive around freely, go a bit crazy if you want, but there's a lot of proper detective elements to this game. And what I mean by that is when you're going through the main quest, or even the side quests, a lot of your decisions would influence how easy the missions are to do. So, for example, you can interrogate people in this game, and there's actually parts of the interrogation where you have to try and recognise their facial expressions. That's how good it was at the facial expressions in this game. You have to try and look and detail their facial expressions to work out if they were lying or not when you was asking them questions. And if you couldn't work it out, it would make it harder to get confessions out of them and stuff like that. And it was spot on, mate. It was a proper decent game. You'd have to go around the game finding evidence for crimes. You'd have to go and search people's houses, ask them questions in their house. It really was an immersive game. And like I said, I like the LA setting along with the era of about being 1920s. But there's a lot of gunfights and stuff in it as well, so it had a bit of everything. If you ain't played this, definitely give that a go. And as you can see here, there's an interrogation scene here. Here, a bit of crime scene investigation. Someone's been shot and you're searching around for clues. That's what you do. And then here, a bit of an action shot. See you with a couple of other officers here having a shootout with some gangsters or something. But it's got that proper noir vibe, if you like all that. If you love investigating, being a proper detective, this is really immersive. I'm not sure if I could slide that out, if it will come out easily. There you go. Just a little bit of the inside of the case there. I'll tell you what. Let's have a look at the discs. One of them's missing, probably in the Xbox actually. But it was such a big game, you got 4 discs with it, as you can see. But what is pretty cool here is the instruction manual. It's like the badge. It's like a real, looks like as if it's the actual instruction manual of how to be an actual detective. So that's quite a nice little touch there. That's what they were sort of trying to pull off. But if you ain't played that, do take a look. Again, it was Rockstar. Now, this has spawned many, many sequels. And this started it all off. Very first Assassin's Creed, I think you're called Altair. In this game, and actually quite often referred to him in the sequels as he was like the main guy from the first one. But a lot of these cross over into different timelines as the sequels go on. Ancient Egypt, Greece, etc. And this one's Jerusalem. In the Third Crusade, that's the era in 1191. You play Altair, and a lot of you have probably played Assassin's Creed, where it's a lot of stealth, it's a lot of parkour in it. Parkour, going up the buildings, jumping across the buildings and all that. Hanging off of the poles and stuff, climbing up and then dropping down on people to assassinate them. But these games are fantastic games. Finished this, and I got number 2 I'll get onto in a minute. But this set it all for the series, and when I first played this, I was a bit taken back to the crowd factor, the way you can go into a crowd and hang around and disguise yourself within the crowd, and slowly as you walk through, I think if you held one of the buttons, you could pass slowly through the crowd and gently move them out of the way as you were seeking your target out. Or you could stealthily hang about the buildings up the top and spot him from the top, whoever you was going to be taking out. Just like here, jumping down and taking out your target efficiently, should I say. But they've also in the front cover quite cleverly placed you in a crowd of people with them blurred in the background to make it look like you're a little bit of a ghost maybe in the crowd, which is sort of as how you are as you're meant to be playing the game, do you know what I mean? Quite a nice slick disc there. One standard colour, but like I said, that set the tone for all the upcoming Assassin's Creed games, you know what I mean? So that's the first one. Now, again, Rockstar, once again, banging out these open world games, and when you think about it, you've got GTA, which is like modern day, LA Noire, 1920s era, and here, like the Wild West, basically, the Wild West. So Rockstar are able to, as they make games, these open world games in different eras and different places, and this is Red Dead Redemption. Proper good game. Now, you might argue Red Dead Redemption 2 is quite possibly one of the best open world games you can get. I do know the attention to detail in that sequel, number 2, is off the scale. Like, it's super attention to detail, every minuscule little thing. And there's loads of sort of side quests and different things you can do, different storylines, how they evolve in the game, and things change depending on your actions and what decisions you want to make. But it's a bit like this as well, but this is the predecessor obviously to number 2, and they made number 2 an awful lot better. But America 1911, the Wild West. Love Wild West stuff, mate. Wasn't that long ago when you think about it. 100 years, just over 100 years. But you'll walk around all these sort of old West towns, you know, and there'd be sort of these girls, cabaret girls dancing and all that. You'll be having rows with cowboys, shootouts, duels and all that, riding your horse through the valleys, through the cliffs and all that. Deserts with cactuses and going at the bars to have a drink and all that sort of thing. Bit of footage there, jumping over trains, having face-offs with people out in the desert, riding horse and carriages, runaway carriages, loads of action to be had. Can't go wrong with a Wild West game, actually, to be honest. But that's a disc there. But number 2, I don't own. Do apologise, but a lot of you probably played number 2, game fans and that. But this set it all up. I do believe the one before this was called Red Dead Revolver. So this essentially was the sequel to that. And then Red Dead Redemption 2. You might call number 3 actually in the series, but it's opinionated. But there you go. Epic open world game. Now, I'm a fan of these. Proper fan. I did mention in an old gaming video that I did that Resident Evil 7, if you ain't played 7, mate, you need to go and play 7. I would say this one here, Resident Evil 5, wasn't the strongest of them. I did like number 4 better. I thought number 4 was a bit more eerie. Number 6 became a little bit too more action. This was a little bit in between. quite actiony, but a little bit more eerie as well. So I did thoroughly enjoy it though. I do love the Resident Evil series, but you can't beat number 7, mate. They topped it. That was the pinnacle. That was the peak of Resident Evil's number 7. There is another one coming out very soon, and I think it's coming out next month actually, number 9, which I'll be getting 100%. But this one I think was set in Africa, I do believe. And once again, you're playing as Chris Redfield here. And you could either play as him, or I think it's Shava. I think the name is Shava in the game. And what you would do is, as you come to certain parts of the game, you'll have to team up. So if you played as Chris at the start, at certain points in the game, you'll come across Shava and you'll team up and have to do like missions and bits and bobs together. But if you played as her, you'll take her route of the game. And if you played as him, you'll take his route of the game. And therefore you'll end up meeting at certain points. So you could sort of experience different parts of the game with the different character that you chose, which was a proper nice touch, you know what I mean? But you cannot go wrong with these games. But this was more action orientated, carried on the storyline of all the Resident Evil games. Nice design there, the old manual and the disc here. 18 obviously, all the violence and the zombies and all that you got to fight. But you can look here, there's some big dude, some big monster thing there, zombie, that you end up fighting in the game. But these are proper decent immersive action horror games. But like I said, they sort of went up and down really with the horror and the action. They started getting a little bit more action orientated with this, and then number 6 was a bit too action reliant on the action, do you know what I mean, rather than making it horror, keeping with that horror narrative, but still proper. Love any Resident Evil really would be on my list to play. Next here, my favourite of all the Call of Duties. This is Modern Warfare 2. I would say that this is the one that sort of set them properly in motion, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't really play a lot of Call of Duty that much, and this was the first one that I picked up. And I remember playing it and it proper blew me away. Just the physics of it, of the shooting and the action scenes. There's loads of slow motion, there's sort of surprise elements within the game. I've not really seen that before in a shooting game. And like I said, it is a bit linear, but I still love it. This was epic. I played this an awful lot back in the day. And I think this really, from what I know, people spoke about this is when people started speaking a lot about Call of Duty. This really sort of kicked off the franchise proper, if you know what I mean. So Modern Warfare 3 came after, then Black Ops, and they've obviously continued since then. But this is Captain Price, isn't it? And Ghost. I think they're British. Captain Price, I think someone commented in a video actually, I sound a bit like Captain Price. Captain Price reading your story or something. I think maybe I do, so yeah. I remember in Captain Price, he was the main protagonist with, I think it's Makarov in it. Makarov being the villain with Shepard, and I think at the end of the game you have like an epic battle with Shepard. You got to take him out, but you get like there's like loads of double crossing in the game and people being double agents and all that sort of thing. Proper decent action game. But they're really immersive, great games. I remember the sniper bit as well, where you could barely see the snipers, and it's so realistic. But a lot of people would have played this, and obviously everyone's played Call of Duty at some point, isn't it? But there goes a game, beautiful little sort of quite simple, just a soldier walking, but you could see he's war torn, you know what I mean? Been through a bit, that bloke, hasn't he? And there's some gamer footage there, just you. I mean, even when you're driving, you can drive the slow snow speeder thing. even when you're doing that, you do like scuba diving bits as well there, you know what I mean? And when you're doing these sort of missions, you're sort of immersed in the bits that you're doing, so you drive that, or I can't remember if the other bloke drives it and you're shooting off the back of it. But it isn't just literally running about shooting, there's loads of vehicles to be driven. Great game. And then obviously, as we went on, it spawned a sequel here, Modern Warfare 3, and this is where it wrapped it up. With the original Modern Warfare series, really, I think that they revamped it, didn't they? And they did Modern Warfare again for next-gen consoles. They re-released them, didn't they? Or was it a brat? Did they sort of update it? I haven't actually played them. Did they just do the graphics better from these original ones, or did they actually make a brand new game? I'm not sure because I haven't played them. But this year, it's Modern Warfare 3, where you end up having a row with Makarov at the end, the geezer, the main bloke you've been after, and again Price and all that is in it, Captain Price and that. But here, a bit of footage there, look, explosion down at the Eiffel Tower, all kicking off in Paris. But the thing about these games and all is the multiplayer in it. The Call of Duty multiplayers are super epic, and they're very immersive and involving, so you upgrade obviously your badge to get the best achievements that you can get. And a lot of people actually prefer the multiplayer than the main campaign. I didn't play a lot of the multiplayer, to be honest. I was more of a main campaign type of geezer, but I know a lot of people just literally get these to do the multiplayer, and obviously these are a bit older now, the Xbox 360, but with newer consoles, the multiplayer is more epic. But there's your disc there, that pretty standard. The colouring sort of suits the case with the green. But yeah, if you haven't played these, which you probably have, like I said, the multiplayer is epic. Epic campaigns, epic action. Loads of sort of, as the action's taking place, there's loads of scenarios you're in. So you might have to jump across a cliff, for example, or jump out of an helicopter. It's quite cinematic. It's not necessarily cut scenes, it's part of the game, but it's very cinematic and makes you feel really immersed, like you're in there jumping out of helicopters and planes and scuba diving and all that sort of thing, you know what I mean? This is your Modern Warfare 3. Second Assassin's Creed. A lot of people, along with number 4, which I ain't played, a lot of people say number 4 is the best one, right? Let me know in the comments what you think's the best one. A lot of people say this though, number 2, because I think number 1, they're getting the grips with the mechanics and that. The game makers, is it Ubisoft? Not sure how you pronounce it actually. And they're getting used to the mechanics of the game, and normally quite often with games it's the sequel, the second one, which is the better one. And the reason for that, could say that with Resident Evil 2, the reason for that is because they get used to the game mechanics and then they just build upon that and have a more epic story than the first in the series. And then maybe sometimes the third one is a bit more difficult to build upon because they've already sort of done most of that work in the sequel, you know what I mean? So a lot of people might think that about this. You'll play in this game Ezio, geezer called Ezio, and I think you're in Florence. Ezio Auditore is an assassin, he's one of the assassins. So basically the Assassin's Creed is like you go back in time. I think it's exactly what the story is, but you're someone of the modern day that goes back in time for a simulator, and you get to experience playing as the assassins in the Assassin's Creed, which has gone on throughout history. So it's not like necessarily you are in the actual place, but you go through via a simulator. And there's your instruction book there. There's your disc there. But yeah, you play as Ezio, and I think in this one you get to meet Leonardo da Vinci, and he makes you loads of contraptions and stuff which you can use. But if you see here, use new assassins, skills and allies to defeat your enemies, experience open world gameplay, a wide variety of missions. So that's set in Florence, I do believe. And what I liked about the Assassin's Creed games, I did a walkthrough video of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and that was set in Victorian London. And there's other ones that are set in ancient Greece and ancient Egypt. And that's what I like about these games, the eras and the places where they set them. So if you ain't played this or any Assassin's Creed, do check them out. Do advise Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which I did a video on. If you ain't seen that, walking tour of Victorian London, do check it out. Just slide that back in there. But again, with Assassin's Creed, it's all jumping off of buildings. It's all walking through the crowd. Parkour, running up buildings, jumping over. You can do a leap of faith, by the way, which is where you come to the top of a tower or something like that, and you end up jumping off and landing in like a haystack. So we come to at the end here. This is epic as you can get. RPG. A lot of people might say that this is the most epic RPG you can get. This is Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 5, and they still ain't made another one yet, as far as I know. Still waiting for the Elder Scrolls 6, mate. This must have come out 2011, I don't know. But Bethesda, and this is a sequel to Oblivion, which has started on over here. And in this game you play Dragonborn. Basically a geezer that's born with dragon powers, and later on as you progress through the game you start to learn these powers, and you can start utilising them to your advantage to sort your enemies out when you're getting attacked and all that. But again, proper RPG. So again, you would start the game and you would learn how to do things like lock picking, sneaking, attack, and all that sort of things, all the perks that you can upgrade. And then when you upgrade your perks, you learn new things and you can do more things throughout the game, but you have to get the experience points to be able to do them. So it's basically like real life, do you know what I mean? When you're learning new skills, you get better at stuff, and then it enables you to do new things, you know what I mean? But this was, again, better graphics than Oblivion. There you can see some sort of magic going on. Got a mace, magic spell being cast, dragon here. You used to have to fight a lot of dragons in this game, which was pucker as well. And again, having a row here looks like some skeleton or some zombies or something. But even though you had dragon powers in the game and was the Dragonborn, you still had to fight dragons in it. There were good dragons and bad dragons in it. But the world of Skyrim is massive, mate. And you could do loads of side quests. You had the main quest, but you could do loads of side quests. And sometimes get lost in the side quests, you know what I mean? And what I liked about this is because the world's so big, mate, they actually gave you, rather than them to keep pausing the game, they actually gave you a map of Skyrim in the box. Now, I don't know if I can open this all up, but there's a little bit of an example. The province of Skyrim. And also as well, look, they see the detail on that map. It actually looks like a proper rough old bit of paper that a map would have been written onto, you know what I mean? Just see if I can open that. There's a little bit more of it, look. Solitude, Whiterun. You've got Mark F there. And that is the map that they actually give you. So to make it more immersive, it's like they're actually giving you, as an RPG, the map itself of Skyrim. So that's proper nice little touch. You know what I mean? But if you ain't played these games, it's a super epic. If you love RPGs, to be honest with you, you probably wouldn't get better than that. I played the hell out of that. I finished this game. I will say what is dangerous about Skyrim, you can play it so much you can ultimately get lost and it might take over your life. So be careful. If you're going to start playing, make sure you got a spare month. Yeah, ain't that bad. So that's our games. That's our game collection here. Now what I'm going to do is zoom in, and we're going to have a more detailed look at the console here and the controller. Alright, so here we have the Xbox 360 controller in black. You could get them in black and white, I do believe. Now, this is very similar to the Xbox One controller. It's just a little bit of a difference, but this sort of set the tone for the Xbox controller. Is really very comfortable while in your hand. Two joysticks here, one on the left and one on the right. They had this thing again, when they seem to get a little bit, the grey dyes, the tone of the colour seems to sort of dim a little bit, just the rubber. But there's your two joysticks, the main controls. You've got your D-pad here. This is normally for like a weapon wheel, for example, in a first person shooter. Then you've got your X, your Y, your B, and then your A. Most controllers have that sort of setting of diamond shaped arrow buttons, easy to access. You've got your start here, and you've got your select, normally for having up a map or something, and then you've got your main menu on the start. This is home, so if you want to go to your Xbox Home desktop, you'll be pressing this button here, and that would light up when you've got the controller on. Just on the top here, we've got your bumper buttons, got your LB here, and you've got your RB here. And then you've got your triggers. Now this would be used for first person shooters. You've got your LT, and then you've got your RT here. Your trigger buttons there. I'll say a comfortable controller to hold. Pretty nice in the hand to hold. Comfortable playing on the back here. I don't actually have a cover, but you'll put your batteries in there. Put the cover on and you're good to go. Wireless controller obviously with batteries. But everything you need on a controller. Quite a slick little design. I say black, opted for black. You can get them in white as well. Quite simple, that's all you need. Like I said, these ones here for shooting. They're for changing weapons, stuff like that. But then you've got your main activating buttons here. That's a sidestep, and that'll be your main control with a weapon wheel for shooter, but obviously different types of genres of games. So there is your controller. Let's move on to the console. So I've got the console in front of me here, and this, mate, I will say, this is a proper heavy, weighty console, probably the heaviest one in memory that they had. It's obviously a very big console, but obviously all the sort of insides of it just make it feel really weighty. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very big console, and again black. They did come in black and white, but here, look at the front. You've got the Xbox 360 logo here, and this here is your disc tray. And what you'll do is just press that, then this here would slide open, you pop your disc in and then just push it back and it automatically went back in like that. But that's the button you'd use to open it. I think you press that actually and it automatically would go back. And then here you've got your on and off switch that would illuminate green to indicate the console is on when you turn it on. Then here you've got some USB ports, and if you can see in there, some USB ports there. I'm not too sure what they're for. Maybe some sort of add-on, maybe a plug-in controller, quite possibly. But they're tucked away behind that door, just there like that. Then you've got here, I think that's a sync button. If you need to sync it again to your controller. And then you've got some memory card slots here. I do believe a lot of the game's memory saved onto the console, but if you need any extra memory, you've got it here with your game slots. And then this here is just a nothing button. It's just a bit of a design really. Nothing in particular. Like I say, a very weighty console. I can't really describe how heavy this actually is until you get your hands on it, you know what I mean? And then what we've got here, you can see that, just a bit of writing there, 120 gigabytes HDD, nice bit of slick silver design there going on. Then we've got a big port here for the fan. That presses in that button, maybe it releases that, I'm not too sure. But that's a big port there for your fan. Opening point. Let's go around the other side. And again, big area opening point for the fan here as well. As a big console, it does get quite hot. So then you have them open bits for it to cool down, you know what I mean? And at the back here as well. Now you've got all your plug-in bits here. HDMI cable. I think here's for the power. So put that in to power it up. And some other USB slots. I think that would be online plug into your wall. And then just bottom here, just got your little stands here like that. You know what I mean? Just little rubber so it stands quite firm and don't go nowhere. But that is the console as I'm showing you. It's quite tricky to lift in front of the camera, it's being so weighty. And then you've got your Xbox 360 right in there. And there you go, that's your console. So, do hope you enjoyed that little collection there. Do let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Do like and do subscribe. Any other gaming collections you could think of, like I said, I've got quite a few. So, I'll get on it and I'll show you. But if you've got anything specific, might be able to get my hands on it. I'll go through that for you. But look after yourself, you lot. Take care. Cheers. I'll see ya in the next one. Ta.